This video is for Artifact 8, Standard 4.1, ISTE Criterion 12, Collaborate with Other Educators. For this standard, I designed and implemented an engaged learning project called Down the Drain for my 6th grade math students at Jones Middle in Gwinnett County, Georgia. The main idea of the project is that it would tie in with our statistics and data unit in 6th grade math, where students would really engage in meaningful data collection by considering and calculating their household average water consumption and developing a plan on how they could reduce their average household water consumption. In terms of collaborating with others, I was able to post a draft of my project on the discussion board for my KSU class and elicit feedback from other members in my cohort just for suggestions or things they liked about the project or things that they thought could be improved. I was then able to take their suggestions and make changes to the project. One change that I made was I implemented the idea of students making predictions for their average water consumption. I was able to integrate technology by having them complete a Google form and display the data via a bar graph. So instead of just jumping into the data, I allowed the students or provided the students with an opportunity to make predictions on what they currently thought their average water consumption was. Another change that I made based on the feedback was I had the students display their data using two different visual displays so they could compare and contrast the benefits and downsides to displaying the data each way. I also responded to the projects of colleagues in my cohort with suggestions and feedback on their projects. So this was a great opportunity just for me to read their projects and consider any things that I thought were going well with the project and provide suggestions like they did for me as well on mine. In terms of collaborating with educators inside of the county, I actually reached out to a 6th grade math teacher at Osborne, which is formerly our sister middle school, but not anymore since we've switched over to a new cluster. To collaborate on this project and provide my students with an opportunity to collaborate with a student outside of their building, just to get a different perspective on this. So I was really excited about this just with our schools coming together and for the students to get perspectives outside of the everyday students that they see all of the time. This video is for Artifact 8, Standard 4.3, ISTE Criterion 14, Facilitate Students' Virtual Meetings with Experts or Students. For the standard, I designed and implemented an engaged learning project titled Down the Drain for my 6th grade math students at Jones Middle in Gwinnett, Georgia. The main goal of the project was for students to collect and analyze their own data about their average household water consumption. After collecting and displaying their data, they were supposed to consider ways in which their household could reduce the amount or the average water consumption by person or overall. They could do things such as brushing their teeth with the water off or running the dishwasher less. For this, I really wanted to use collaborative tools or digital tools such as Zoom to provide my students with an opportunity to reach outside of the classroom to meet with an expert. My main idea was for them to Zoom conference with a representative from the North Metropolitan Water Planning District, which collaborates with 96 different cities and 15 counties to conserve and protect our region's vital yet limited water resources. I believe that that would be an integral and important perspective for students to hear. However, when I was reaching out via the form on their website and the emails present on their website, I actually did not receive a response back in time. In the future, I do plan to ensure that the students do have an opportunity to Zoom with a representative from the Metropolitan Water District, and I now know that I need to reach out far in advance so that I can secure that. However, I did still want my students to be able to interact with an expert and hear their thinking in terms of water conservation. So, one thing that I was able to do was set up a Zoom conference with one of our cluster AI specialists, now that we are an AI cluster, to talk about water conservation and different AI projects in terms of conserving water. And can AI truly help conserve water? Do we want AI to help us conserve water, right? Would we like for our water faucet to turn off after we've used a certain amount of water, right? Even if we're not done. So the students were able to engage in meaningful conversation with the specialist and hear her expert thinking in terms of the AI world and everything that is to come in the future. For students who were absent, for the Zoom conference, I was able to record it and post it. That's one thing that I love about Zoom as a collaborative tool, for them to watch it on their own time. I also provided students with an opportunity to collaborate with students at our sister or our former sister middle school, Osborne. By reaching out to a sixth grade math teacher at Osborne Middle, I was able to pair each one of my students up with a student at Osborne who they could then use the share feature in Google Slides to share their data with. They would then use the comment feature just to provide any suggestions that they thought would be helpful on how each person or that family could reduce their overall water consumption, and it gave them a perspective outside of their school. This video is for Artifact 8, Standard 4.4, ISTE Criterion 15, Demonstrate Effective Communication with All Student Supporters. For this standard, I designed and implemented an engaged learning project called Down the Drain with my sixth grade math students at Jones Middle in Gwinnett County, Georgia. The basis of the project was for students to collect and analyze data about their household water consumption so they could determine their average water consumption and ways that they could decrease their household average water consumption. One thing that I wanted to make sure that I did was reach out to parents and provide them with information about the projects. A lot of times, parents can get overwhelmed by projects, especially if there's a lack of communication from the teacher. So, I definitely wanted to go ahead and send out this newsletter just breaking down the purpose of the project and why it would be beneficial and helpful in student learning. I really wanted parents to partner with their child to ensure that this was a meaningful and engaging learning experience. I also set up an optional Zoom session for parents or guardians just so that they could ask questions about the project purpose, collecting data, the different guidelines, and just so that they were aware that this was not something that was going to take a lot of effort on their part other than just picking household members to record how often they brush their teeth or run the dishwasher to determine their overall average water consumption. In terms of students, throughout this project, I wanted to make sure that I was always available to help them, even if they were not willing to come up and ask me in person. So I definitely created this Google form, Down the Drain Project Help Request, just so that students could fill it out whenever they needed to ask for support. And the question was just, how can I support you in the completion of this project, whatever it may be? Whether you're confused on collecting your data, or you feel like you're getting stressed out, or you're running behind, or whatever it may be, how can I support you? And then I check that consistently throughout the project just to ensure that I was checking in with each student. I was also able to utilize small group check ins, especially at the midpoint of the project, just to check in with students and see how much they had completed and if they needed any support from me, or if they needed me to reach out or send more information out to parents and guardians. My students who are included in the podcast for our school were able to speak about the project and the importance of water conservation for all community members and stakeholders to access the engaging learning happening in sixth grade math. It was a joy to hear them so engaged in talking about water conservation and their own personal data that they were collecting. And I was very happy that we were able to put that out to the public for them to hear. This video is for Artifact 8, Standard 5.2, ISTE Criterion 17, aligned to content area standards. For this standard, I designed and implemented an engaged learning project called Down the Drain for my sixth grade math students at Jones Middle School in Gwinnett, Georgia. When creating the engaged learning project, I really wanted to make sure that I was providing a meaningful and authentic learning experience for students that pinpointed the key pinpointed the key concepts that were necessary in our sixth grade math statistics unit based on the sixth grade math Georgia standards. As you can see, the sixth grade math Georgia standards calls for different things in terms of analyzing and recognizing a statistical question as one that anticipates variability, describing and analyzing a set of data that's collected to answer a statistical question based on measures of central tendency, measures of spread, and overall shape, as well as obtain, evaluate, and communicate information about the uses of conservation of various natural resources and how they impact the earth. That's actually a sixth grade science, Georgia science standard. In terms of learner objectives, the students will use the statistical question, what's your family's weekly average water consumption, to collect their own data. They will use their data to determine an accurate calculation for their family's average water consumption, and they'll consider ways in which they can reduce their family's average water consumption. In their final projects, they also have to work with visual data displays and determine a way to display their data. I also made sure to incorporate several ISTE standards, such as the standards that talk about being an empowered learner, a knowledge constructor, and a creative communicator. By collaborating with a sixth grade math teacher at our former cluster middle school, students were able to utilize the share feature of Google Slides to analyze the data of a student outside of their school and provide meaningful suggestions for decreasing their average water consumption using the comment feature in Google Slides. And here you can see a couple messages back and forth just about ensuring that each student had a partner to collaborate with during this project. To create their final projects, they utilize technological tools such as Google Slides and Canva to create their final presentations. They also use things like Google Sheets to create their visual displays of their data. So for this student, you can see that she definitely had to utilize Google Sheets to create this bar graph that just shows the daily average in gallons of water consumption by household member. You can also see that she has a summary of the household um, in our house. It's me, my mom, dad, and brother. Austin, we recently checked out how much water we all use every day. Turns out my mom uses the most water because she's always doing the laundry, and just considering like what is the summary of the water usage in my household, and then moving on in that project to talk about ways that we can decrease that water consumption, and comparing it to or analyzing the water consumption of the student they were partnered with as well.